Chen, leading product marketing. Joined with me is Asosa, who's a senior engineer. And for today's session, we're leaning into the game show theme, if you haven't noticed. And what we're covering here today in the next 30 minutes or so is this agenda. You'll meet Mary. Mary is a fictional character based on a true story. She's a software engineer, and she received a bill that caught her by surprise. We're going to talk a little bit about why AI spend keeps surprising people. And then we're going to have a showcase where Asosa is going to do a live demo of how Barndoor can address some of these issues and some of these surprises. And so please meet Mary. She's a senior software engineer at a mid-sized SaaS company. Her team runs on Claude Code, the standard dev toolkit. Everyone has a seat and she's in it all day. And a few months ago, her leadership team gives her team a new assignment, which is to build an SRE agent, something that monitors the stack, catches anomalies, surfaces recommendations without a human having to notice. And so Mary and her team are working on this SRE agent. She's prompting, she's testing, she's refining. The sessions run 2, sometimes 3 hours, and the context grows every week. And so in a couple months, the agent's coming along, but Mary's noticing that she's hitting her Claude Code ceiling a little less often. And she figures she's just gotten more efficient. Maybe development's going well. What she doesn't know is that something changed a few weeks ago. And what had happened was a teammate reconfigured the dev environment to route straight to the API. And this made setup faster for the agent's runtime calls. However, no one flagged it or switched it back. And from that point, every session was hitting the API directly, billed at full price. So there wasn't a budget on the API key, no rate limit on the agent. And so what happened was an invoice arrives and was for $15,000 for the entire month. Her manager escalates this invoice. Mary pulls the logs so she can see the calls, but there's no cost breakdown, and she couldn't tell which sessions drove the spike, whether it was her or the agent, or even which day the spend took off. And so, Mary didn't do anything wrong. It's just there was a configuration changed and no one reverted it. And so if this sounds familiar to you, you're absolutely not alone. Tokens are a new resource that needs to be managed. There's a yet to be released KPMG survey that was reported recently by the Wall Street Journal that found really only 26% of companies have a comprehensive view of their AI costs. Half have some visibility, and 22% find out only after the bill arrives. And if you look at Reddit, developers are comparing notes on token spend all the time. One team, and I have it here, this Redditor posted his team of 20 were spending 8 to 12K a month with zero visibility, and the bill just doubles every quarter and no one owns it. So why does this price keep surprising people? There's many reasons. The 2 reasons we're going to focus on today through Asosa's demo, and he will show this live in action. One is the subscription to API gap. The second is model defaults. So the first one, the subscription to API gap, is what got Mary and her team. This is where your monthly seat is doing more than you think. It's subsidizing token usage and applying a spend cap. And the moment someone switches to the API, that price structure changes completely. Even if you're using the same model, same prompt, you will be getting a different bill. And so this is what a subscription looks like. You have in Claude a Claude usage dashboard with a context window, a 5-hour usage limit, and a weekly cap. The flat fee subsidizes the token cost and applies a spend cap automatically, and the provider absorbs this variability for you. Now, if you flip to the API, that changes completely and it becomes pay-as-you-go, where every call is metered at the token level. So all the input, the output, the cache writes, cache reads, the charges accumulate all month with no warning or spend cap. This is a live API log for 36 hours under 3,000 requests. It's already sitting at $5,000 estimated month to date. And that's how fast it adds up when no one's watching. The second reason spend is unpredictable is model routing. And so without a gateway like Barndoor, every app in your stack makes its own routing decision. I heard a quote from someone that said, why would you hire Albert Einstein to tutor your middle schooler? And so this is kind of what is happening with model routing, where each one is hard coding its own key straight to whatever provider it's using. And so what you're missing here is you have keys scattered across code bases. There's no failover, no spend visibility per team, no budget caps, and a runaway cost that's really hard to track. And so you don't really need your most expensive models to do the routine low stakes work, but that's what happens when you're not setting a policy on how your models are routing. And so if you have a gateway like Barndoor, the same app calls a more stable alias. The gateway handles the alias resolution, failover, budget, rate limits, and audit before the request ever reaches a provider. And with that, your keys are stored once, it's encrypted, you have automatic failover, per user, per team cost attribution. The rate limits are enforced centrally, swapping models via configuration, not a redeploy, and hard spend caps, as well as smart routing without any custom code needing to be displayed, to be configured. And so what could Barndoor have done for Mary? So we're going back to her, and here's what could have changed for her. Barndoor could have routed for her the right model for the right work, for the right task at hand. It could have enforced a subscription to API policies, so a hard monthly ceiling perhaps enforced the moment the teammate switched to the API. It could have put a hard ceiling on team spend, and it could have put a rate limit on an agent, so it couldn't burn the budget overnight. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Asosa, who is going to show you exactly how all of this can get set up within the Barndoor LLM Gateway. Please, if you have questions, please drop them in chat and we will be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Vivian. That was a thorough introduction into what we're going to show today. So I'm pretty much going to show us the Barndoor platform, and specifically for today, how to use it to manage your costs. You're going to have visibility into what's going on and some very interesting tips on how you can, use it to get the best of your subscription as well as your API usage. So I'm going to get into it right away. First of all, this is the entire Barndoor platform, and I'm going to focus on the LLM gateway for this session today. So this is the LLM management bit, and I'll pretty much first walk you through so you can be familiar with the platform before I go into doing a demo. So now we have the credentials, on the sub tab, and under credentials, this is where you can store the credentials, just like Vivian mentioned. And you need to have one API, and that one API key can be used by a group or an organization, as many as possible. It helps you reduce the extent of work you need to manage several API keys on the LLM providers platform. So everything can be done here. So this is where you add that. You can simply add the credential, you pick the provider, and then you can set the key. I also already have some set here as well. And I label this in a specific way so that you can follow. So I have a key here from an account that has pretty much very low credit, exhausted before this, so I can demonstrate what we call the failover. And I have OpenAI, which I'm not going to use today, but yes, we support multiple LLM providers on Barndoor. And I have one that is pretty much valid and has enough room for all the tests that we're going to run. Now, the providers tab, these are instances of providers, LLM providers like Anthropic, OpenAI, as many as possible. And what we have here is for Anthropic alone, you can see we have 3 instances. So you could actually have more instances of a provider. Here I have one for my standard API. I have one for my cloud subscription, which is interesting. So I know many engineers use Cloud Code. Now you can actually channel your traffic from Cloud Code through the LLM Gateway. And the gateway has visibility into it, what you're doing and your spend, and can also help you fail over to API, which I'll describe later. And I have another provider for the low credit account that I talked about earlier. This is OpenAI. I wouldn't use today. Now for the models, this is where you can then enable which models you want each provider to have access to. And for the sake of this demo, I've enabled them Sonnet, Haiku, and Opus across all the OpenAI Anthropic providers I have here. Model pricing is an interesting bit. We already maintain the prices of all the providers that we support here, but as an organization, you can choose to add your own custom price in case you have a discounted rate from what is advertised on the different providers, platforms. But we use what is advertised, which is generally use case. So you don't really need to configure a price, which, as you can see here, is not configured, so it's going to use the default. Now, model roads is a very interesting bit that we have here. And with this, you can actually have a custom model, and that helps you to route to different upstream models. Okay. For instance, I will go into this one. This is Sonnet, for instance. And you can see that I can use Sonnet on Cloud subscription, and I can fall back to using the API, which is interesting. I even have one where I have a mix of OpenAI, Anthropic, and all of that. Okay, so this helps you to be able to route, to different accounts as you were, based on the policy you have as an organization. So it's pretty flexible. Now I'm going to show some of this work today. These ones, I will show you where I'm using them, but just to explain it, I have the fast. So here I've put the Haiku, which are the cheaper models and pretty fast. I have the premium, which are the more high-end models that do lots of reasoning. So we have the Cloud Opus. And again, we want to reserve these models for high tasking work, because they are also more expensive to run. And then we have the standard, which is the Sonnet. We can do pretty much most of the coding work we need today, and a lot of good reasoning as well. Now, this is very interesting, the smart models, and Vivian mentioned it. And on the smart models, I'm going to show you what it looks like. So you can actually classify your prompt into different categories. So it helps you to know if it's going to be a fast prompt, it's going to use the fast dev. And in the fast dev, if you recall, it was Haiku, which is a cheaper one. Now, if it's something a bit more tasking, it's going to use the standard. And if it's the high end, it's going to fall into premium. So the smart routing is a very good one. I can actually put a prompt here to just test. Let me see. And you can see this prompt is sending me to the cheap one. Okay, let me look for another prompt. Let me test this. This is standard because it's like build me a personal website. Then let me look for something a little bit more complex to test with. If I put this here, this is premium. Okay, so depending on the prompt, is able to classify and route it accordingly. I think this is a very interesting solution, which Vivian mentioned earlier, that will really help you save on cost. Because if you're using premium to do very simple mundane tasks, it's going to burn on your tokens pretty quickly. Now,
hey, Asosa. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt your flow, but we do have somebody, McKeon, ask a question in chat. Is the AI cost management module by default a part of every package, or would you need to upgrade or receive this feature? And I can answer that. So LLM Gateway is the cost module is part of the LLM Gateway. So it is not a separate, there's no separate cost attached to it.
All right, thank you very much, Vivian. So talking about cost, I'm going to move into the cost bit right now. So that question came right on time. So API keys is pretty much the admin able to manage API keys, but users can actually mint their own API keys. So there's no need sharing keys, and I'll show you that. Now, this is budgets, right, which is cost. Now, budgets, I have pre-configured budgets. You have this at the org level, which means it's an umbrella budget that looks at all the traffic. So you can actually set a budget for the entire org. Now, but what I have done here is to set budgets for different providers. So I have a budget for that low credit provider I talked about. I also have a budget for my API, which is really key because you don't want your API spend to just go off the roof and have the same situation that Mary had in this scenario that Vivian talked about. And I have something for the Anthropic OAuth. Okay, now this one is pointing to the club subscription, right? And this one, you don't need to set a block when it hits because this is going to max out your subscription. What this can help you do, though, is to let you at the end of a period tell, okay, is it worth my subscription? Because this is going to count based on the actual cost of the tokens versus what you're paying in subscription. And then you will know whether you are having a good deal or whether you need to modify your subscription or increase it as it were. So this gives you very good information. And we also have dashboards, which I'll talk about at the end of the demo. Now for rate limits, here you can actually put a limit so that you don't have an agent that goes and burns so many tokens within a period. So this is a good guardrail to help manage usage. So you can set rate limit as a rate request per second or tokens per second. They are both available. So yeah, pretty easy to configure. And the model access is also a very interesting bit. Here you can actually whitelist or blacklist certain models or providers to certain users. It's pretty flexible. And what I've done here is that I have said that, you know what, when you're on API, I don't want people to use Fable, right? Because Fable is a pretty expensive model. And what this does is that it looks at if it's called Fable and you are using the Anthropic API or Anthropic API low credit, I want to deny, right? Okay, good. Now, before I move on, I'm going to show you what, this is the admin view. I'm going to show you what the users are going to see, and they are going to have access to these my models. So all the models that has been enabled for them, they are able to see. These are the model routes that have been grouped. Inside of this, there's the automatic failover. But you have standalone models because some people may choose to just go straight and use the model, right? Straight up instead of going with the model route. So inside the standalone model, you can then take what you want. Now, if you see clearly, there's no Fable here because it has been blocked. And if I go back to this model access and yes, I disable that policy, and I come back to my models, I will find out that I have it enabled. So this helps you to put some control on what people can use. Okay, so I'm going to go back here and I will enable it. Great. And also on this My Models platform, you can see the gateway endpoint, as well as you can mint your own API keys to use. So you can have one for Claude, Cursor, as many clients as you want to generate keys for. So they have their individual identity. So I've been able to walk through the platform and show you the different bits and what they do, within the course. So I'm going to run some tests now with what we have. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use the subscription with API fallback. And if I come here, I have Cloud Code subscription as the first hit. And if anything happens to the subscription, it's going to fall back to using the API. Now, my subscription still has a lot of room, so I don't expect it to fall back. I'm going to show you, and we're going to go into the audit logs and see what happens there. So I will put this on my rate limit. So this is Cloud Code, right? And to use Cloud Code with the gateway for subscription, there are some configs you need to have. You need to set the Barndoor API key that you get from there, and you need to set the base URL, which is the endpoint, and some other configs here. And with that, you are good to go. So I already have that set up on this platform. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use this model and see where it routes to. So I'm going to copy the model from here, and I'm going to set the model here. So I paste it here. So the model is also already set, and I can send a very simple prompt. I say, so it's responded. I can go to my, let me move this down a little bit, use some more space. I can go to audit history, and here I can see the transactions that I just did. And when I check, I can see it hits my Cloud subscription. Okay, so it doesn't need to fall back, right? Good. Now I will make another test with a route that has this one. Now this has exhausted its unit, so I expect it to fail over to the next one seamlessly without the engineer losing access. So I'm going to switch my model to this one. Yes. And then I'll use the same prompt. Good. So it's still fine. Now, if I go to my audit history, you can see there is a failover, and there's a cooldown because it got the message that says that, hey, it's running out of credits, and this is the failover. You have reached your specified API usage. And the engineer is not aware what's going on. He just keeps using his LLM, and everything just works on smoothly. Okay. All right. So I'm going to then make another test using a budget hit, for instance. And let's say I want to make sure it hits a budget. I can maybe temporarily just put a token limit that's very low here, and I expect it to fail. Okay. So the LLM is going to try to see if it can make it through, but it's not going to make it. As you can see, there are lots of errors here that says that, you know what, you have actually hit your limit. So you can see this has hit already because of that. Okay. So I'm going to go back and I will increase this. Okay. Right. Okay. Now I will try the smart routing bit. And before I move on, let me just make another call so that you see the prompt here. Let's see, write a short, let's see, about okay, API, my usage limits. Okay, let me set this for a higher amount. Okay, that's good. I want to okay, so it gives me a brief run through. And in a few seconds, you can see that the tokens per minute is rising here to show that activity is going on. And the budget slider is actually also progressing as I make calls. Okay, so this gives visibility into what is going in real time for you to see how your budget is being used. And once it hits, it fills. Now I'm going to talk about the smart routing. As you can see, I've configured the smart model called Smart. And I'm going to also use that in Claude, and I'll put a model and call it Smart. Yes. So with this, I'm going to use those prompts that I used the last time. Just going to say a very simple one, say hello in French. Okay. So and if I again go through the audit history, I'll be able to see that it routed perfectly. Let me see. Let me make another prompt. Let me try something a bit more complex. Build me a personal web application. And this is going to a standard dev, which is my Sonnet. Let me try something a bit more complex. Audit history. Okay. It's trying to use a standard for something even more complex. Sec. Okay. So. Okay, one sec. Let me check my limits are good. me try this prompt one more time. So I might need to give it time to put this together. Let me give it some work. That is design for this full detail. Okay, so you can see hit the premium at the point is writing the code. So this is able to use the standard to do its initial analysis, and then it goes to premium. So this just helps you save. So the classifier is able to tell, you know what, it's time to go standard, it's time to go premium, and do your thing. So that's what I have to show in terms of the functionality. We have a nice dashboard here that can give insights into latency, active usage, average request per users. For throughput, this helps you to set your TPS to compare usage. So you can look at history and say, you know what, we've been using like burning about 10K, per minute, and then you can set that. If anything goes way above, it's an anomaly, and this gives you the errors that are taking place. You have a breakdown where you can actually see a lot more detail in the dashboard. You can dimension this as well by provider to see what each of them is doing, and you can see what each of them is costing you. So that's it from my end. Thank you very much, Vivian.
Great. Thank you, Asosa. And thank you for everyone, McKeon and folks in the audience, Matt, for your questions. If you have any more questions, please send them through chat. Or I'm looking here, and you can actually raise your hand too, and I can bring you on stage if you feel brave enough to want to ask a question live. And actually, someone submitted a question in the other section of the question module. So, Asosa, I think you were able to show whether or not we can set budgets by team, correct? Specific teams. Asosa, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. Okay, yes, definitely. So for the budget, you can actually set that, and I can show that real quick, and you can choose the scope here. You can put it as a group. So when you have your IDP hooked up to Barndoor, it's going to have a list of groups, and then you can then set that for this group or team. This is what I want. You can actually even set per user to say, okay, for this user, I want him to have a slightly higher budget than the other general users. So all those can be set as well. Thank you, Phoebe.
And then McKeon had also asked earlier. I answered part of the question in the chat, but is there a way for you to show like what it would look like to block models, like if you don't want a certain model to be used within your organization?
Yes, definitely. And I would say you should use this model access policy. Like I showed here, I already blocked Fable, and you can add as many. You can actually also do a whitelist to say that, let's say some people in a certain department, let's say logistics, for instance, that probably may not need to do coding. You can configure, what model you want to give them access to, and then you can just put maybe Sonnet, and you can add Heiku, so that they don't have to stress. They just have access to those models. that they can use to do their thing. And with this, you can actually block certain models as well.
Awesome. And I think you said also, can you override a budget for a specific user without changing the group policy?
Yes, that can be done.
Okay.
So I can actually create a budget. Let's put one for myself. Let's say I'm a pretty big spender. I could then say, let's say I want one for me, and I can do this only on spend, and I can just put maybe $200, for instance. So going forward, all my usage is going to be tracked here for me.
Cool. Thank you, Asosa. So yeah, any questions, please send them through chat and we'll try to answer them for you. I'm going to grab the rest of the screen here, Asosa, and share and kind of close things out. So so what Asosa just showed you guys, it's just one part of what Barndoor offers. Barndoor provides a full comprehensive AI agent governance platform, so that allows you to see every agent, control every connection, and protect every prompt. So what we just showed you was part of the Barndoor LLM Gateway, which does more than just budget and cost management, but we handle credential management, traffic control, observability. On the MCP governance side, another solution offered by Barndoor, it covers how your agents actually interact with your business tools and applications, and we offer granular role-based access controls. And for both solutions, you can also configure enterprise data protection, or DLP, to guard against sensitive data and PII leaks, prompt injection, malicious instructions that are embedded in MCPs, and more. And so while cost control is often where teams start, I know this is a very critical pain point for a lot of organizations now. Barndoor's goal is to help organizations govern AI safely at scale, and that's the ultimate goal. And so if you are interested in a more comprehensive deep dive across the entire Barndoor AI agent governance platform, you can use this QR code to schedule another comprehensive live demo. I'm going to add this in the chat as well, a link to schedule a live demo if you're interested. And we hope to talk to everyone soon. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for joining. Like I mentioned earlier, this webinar is recorded, and you'll have access to it on demand. So thank you, everyone, and hope you all have a great day. Thanks, Asosa.
Thank you, Vivian. Bye.